Today we're talking about the most unhinged thing any world leader has ever done in recorded history. And I need you to understand, the bar for world leaders doing unhinged things is already extremely high. This is a man who had the most powerful army on Earth, the greatest empire in human history, absolute authority over tens of millions of people. And he used all of that to pick a fight with the ocean. This is Caligula. And trust me, it gets so much worse before it gets better. It's 37 AD, and Rome is celebrating. A brand new emperor has just taken the throne, and the city cannot contain its excitement. For 8 months, the Roman people genuinely believe they have the best emperor in the history of the empire. Historians actually call this the Golden Age of Caligula's reign. 8 months. That's how long the Golden Age lasted. Then Caligula gets seriously ill. Nobody knows exactly what it was. Some think a fever, others a complete nervous breakdown from suddenly running an empire at 24.
A few modern scholars suggest encephalitis, a brain inflammation that can cause personality changes so severe the person who recovers is essentially a different human being. Whatever it was, the Rome that had been celebrating his golden age starts to notice something has changed. Because the man who walked out of that sick room was not the man who walked in. He starts executing people. Not enemies, not criminals, just people who annoyed him. A senator who made a remark he didn't like 3 years earlier. A man who prayed loudly for Caligula's recovery, which Caligula decided must have been sarcastic. He starts showing up to Senate meetings dressed as gods. Jupiter one day, Mercury the next, Venus occasionally. He'd sit on the throne in full divine costume and expect senators to treat him as the literal embodiment of a deity. The senators did it. What were they going to do? He had all the soldiers. He invites wealthy, powerful men to dinner and takes their wives away in front of everyone. He comes back to the table and delivers detailed public reviews of the experience. These men sit there and smile because he had all the soldiers.
Then comes the horse. His horse's name is Incitatus. Caligula gives Incitatus a marble stable with an ivory manger, a private house with furniture and slaves, purple blankets reserved exclusively for royalty, and dinner parties where senators are invited to dine as the horse's guests. Then Caligula announces his intention to make Incitatus a consul, one of the highest positions in Roman government. The Senate of the most powerful empire on Earth sat there in silence, while their emperor seriously discussed making a horse their colleague, because he had all the soldiers. He also builds a 2-mile floating bridge of boats across the Bay of Baiae. He requisitions every merchant vessel in the region, has them lashed together side by side, soil and gravel poured across the decks to make a road, and then he rides across it on horseback in the stolen armor of Alexander the Great. Because a prophecy had once said he would never be emperor, and he wanted to prove a prophecy wrong that badly. While Rome's treasury quietly counted what was left. Which brings us to 40 AD. Caligula has been emperor for 3 years. The treasury that Augustus spent 40 years is almost completely gone. Rome needs a win. So Caligula makes an announcement. He is going to conquer Britain. And here is the thing. This is actually not a ridiculous idea. Julius Caesar crossed the Channel twice and came back both times without holding the territory. Conquering Britain permanently would be a genuine military achievement, fill the treasury through tribute, and restore Caligula's reputation as a serious leader. So he assembles tens of thousands of soldiers on the northern coast of Gaul, right at the English Channel. Warships lined up in the harbor, catapults loaded, siege equipment ready. Britain is right there across 20 miles of water. The soldiers are ready. The ships are ready. And then Caligula gives the order to stop. Nobody gets on the ships. Nobody crosses the water. Instead,
Caligula rides his horse up and down the beach, climbs onto a wooden platform built over the waves, looks out at the ocean, and declares war on Neptune, the Roman god of the sea, in front of his entire assembled army. He orders his soldiers to stab the water with their spears. They do it. He orders them to fire arrows into the waves. They do that too. Then, Caligula announces they have won. The ocean has been defeated. Rome is victorious. He then orders every single soldier on that beach to collect seashells as official war trophies, the spoils of the conquered sea.
Thousands of trained Roman legionaries in full battle armor bent over a beach collecting seashells. Caligula watches from horseback with a satisfied expression. He awards military decorations to the soldiers for collecting seashells. He loads the shells into carts and ships them back to Rome as evidence of his great military victory. Now, historians have been arguing about what happened here for 2,000 years, and there are three theories. Theory 1. By 40 AD, Caligula had simply lost his mind completely and genuinely believed he had conquered the sea. Given everything else he'd done, this is not the least plausible explanation. Theory 2. It was deliberate humiliation of troops who had threatened mutiny. Collecting seashells on command was his way of saying, "You will do whatever I tell you to do. Even this, especially this." Theory 3. The Latin word for military huts that soldiers built on beaches is similar enough to the Latin word for shells that some historians think the whole story is a 2,000-year-old translation error. This is the least dramatic explanation. It is also, possibly, the correct one. But given everything else Caligula did, the seashells version is completely believable. Caligula returns to Rome expecting a triumph parade. The Senate nervously begins planning one. He never gets it. Because on January 24th, 41 AD, members of his own Praetorian Guard, the soldiers whose only job was to protect his life, stab him 24 times in a palace corridor. He is 28 years old. The Senate immediately votes to erase him from history entirely. Damnatio memoria. Destroy the statues, strike the name from the records, chip his face off every monument. They did it so thoroughly that for centuries, historians weren't even sure which portrait busts in museums were supposed to be him. It didn't work. Because here we are, 2,000 years later, and Caligula is one of the most famous names in Roman history. Not because of anything he built or any battle he won. Because he made an army collect seashells and called it a military victory. The ocean was not impressed. It is still there. Rome is ruins.